His mama dressed him this morning.
Good morning.
Morning, boss.
Ready for the work day?
I am. What you wearing there?
GKR Shelby.
I guess.
What were we talking about? Overalls, cowboy hat. That's like totally GKR Shelby.
Why you wearing all that?
Shelby release day.
All right.
All right, guys, got another car to show you. This one's pretty special. It's a car we bought, a year and a half, 2 years before GKR was even thought of. It was a car I bought. I had done some DIY work. I'd flipped cars in the past, but it was a car I bought to build from ground up, kind of what I wanted to do with the shop. Just to make sure it was something I really wanted to do, day in and day out as my full-time job. And start a business around it. So bought it, kind of test myself, challenge myself. I'd work on it on late night weekends, and you've actually seen it. You've seen it probably a few times in a lot of the content we've put out there because it's been around that long. But excited to show this to you because it's done. We are done with it finally, and let's dig into it. All right, so time to dig into this thing. Like I said, you probably saw, some of the decals, a big white circle on that zoom out, and the red stripe. There's just a lot going on with this. What we modeled this after was the 60s 289 FIA Shelby Cobras that were kind of dominating international races. FIA, if you watch F1, FIA. They're the kind of regulating kind of association that handles all the worldwide motorsports. Yep, they were around in the 60s, regulating everything then too. And the ones that were approved for FIA racing kind of had this look. The red stripe, the white circles. White circles, if you don't know, the reason there's no number on them, because Herbie, you've probably seen Herbie, Lovebug, Beetle, whatever, had numbers on it. Well, this was because every weekend you'd go racing and you'd get a random number every week. So if you liked number 52, you couldn't put 52 on there because each weekend you'd get a different number. So what you would do is you just take a charcoal pen or some kind of marker, something, I think they even used oil sometimes, just to mark a number on there, because you had to have a number on the racetrack just to know who was who out there in case somebody had similar cars. So that's the explanation on that. We went with some period correct sponsorship logos. I didn't want to cover it because there's usually a few more, but these all match, Castrol, SO Fuel, and then Tag Heuer chronograph watches. Kind of period correct from back in the day. We built it as a vintage racer on the outside and on the inside. This thing has a very stout suspension. It's got, big old tires front and back. It's going to handle and hug the road really well. Adjustable suspension, and then it's got a race-built motor. It's not too hot, but it's plenty powerful for how lightweight this whole car is. So a few more things outside of the exterior that make this, kind of the FIA 289, mostly replica, is the exhaust. The exhaust on most of these cars comes out of the actual side of the fender and wraps around and is much higher because it kind of comes above the frame and out the side. And lots of people, burn their legs getting out on those. And it's more of the traditional, you'll see the Factory 5 replicas have that, which this is a Hurricane build. That's the name of the manufacturer of the actual kit. Rock solid chassis from them. Big fan of how they set up the chassis. But then another thing is the gas cap here, mounted inboard right there. And then the passenger floorboard mounted roll bar. You don't see these too often. Usually you just see the loop here, and that's all you have. This is, you don't see it too often unless you look up an actual old FIA 289 or some of the early 60s Cobras have this, and it's just a little more support for, in the event of a rollover. It just, makes it a little bit safer, which I don't know if that was an FIA rule and that's why that's there. There's always reasons, for that kind of stuff, but, we built it with that style of roll bar, that exhaust and that gas cap to kind of mimic, that FIA 289. All right, so the interior could be a pretty short little piece because, like I said, we kept it pretty basic. This is a race car, and it's designed around race car kind of setups. So we did add a radio and a couple speakers, but it's base setup, keep it light, but you do have music. We've got, the racing harnesses here, and if you notice, the speedometer actually goes backwards instead of left to right. I'm not sure how that's going to show in the video for you because it's going to show the right way because I'm switched, but you'll see it in the video. It's actually backwards, from the traditional American style speedometers, because back in the day, these were actually AC cars, which is a British company that built these bodies that got shipped over. Look up GKR Shelby. You'll see what he did with these cars and why they are what they are. But, some cool little things like that. And then, of course, the wooden steering wheel. But I made it a little bit more race worthy with a removable steering wheel. You can take that steering wheel off. You'll be able to throw this in the trunk and lock the trunk if you drive this out. Park in the parking lot. It kind of helps, deter a theft or whatnot. And outside of that, it's pretty basic interior. We've got basic loop carpet in there just to make it a little nicer. And there's not much else besides that. It's a race car. All right, so I got another period correct setup here for you. It is the wheels here. So these are called knockoffs, and no, not knockoff like a fake something. These are knockoffs because you literally use a hammer to get them off. You knock this center lug off, and that's why you see you don't see 4 or 5 lug nuts here, because they're essentially behind this wheel. Wheel goes over them to attach, and then you put this one center lug on, tighten it down, and then you hit it with a hammer, mallet hammer or whatnot. And they're all reversed threaded based off which side of the vehicle you're on, so that way you're not going down the road and the natural turning of the wheels just loosens them. But another really cool thing, you don't see very often, you definitely don't see it today on production cars, but if you watch F1, you've seen them when they go into the in the pit there, they use their impacts. Just one big lug they take off, put the new tire on, one big lug they put down, and away they go. So again, kind of going back to that racing heritage. All right, so you can't have a race car without an engine, and especially a hopped up engine. This is actually a block out of an early 90s Fox body Mustang, the 5.0, and it just completely been gone through forged internals, aluminum heads, billet rockers, and a racing carburetor. We stuck with the traditional style of carburetor just because I wanted to keep that original feel from the 60s as much as possible. We did go with an updated ignition system with the MSD because it's still going to be driven on the street. Still want some streetability, and honestly, even for racing, that's that much more efficient to have that stronger spark. So it's got a newer ignition, aluminum radiator, electric fan, kicks on, cools this thing down really quickly. And the thing doesn't have air conditioning, doesn't have power steering. The only thing, pulling power from the engine is the alternator, which you got to keep the battery charged. So you do need to keep an alternator on here, but that's the only accessory unit we have on here. And outside of that, it's mostly period correct as far as the technology, anyways. For the most part, a pushrod V8 from the 60s, but then has a few modern efficiency luxuries. but it still has that feel. When you take it out, you know, you've got that instant throttle feel, because you know, you got that cable hooked right up to the carburetor. And it's just a fun car to drive. You know, it's as pure racing fun as you can get with an old car like this. So really excited to take it out to a track and test it out there, but we've just had test drives with it for now on city roads. All right, well, thanks for checking out another car that we're super proud to show you guys and the world. You know, this car has really been kind of a full circle car for GKR. I bought it all by myself to kind of figure out what I wanted to do with Car Shop and make sure it was actually something I wanted to do as my full-time job. And now, you know, we just had our 1-year anniversary. We've got Austin here kicking ass. You know, we've got 2 guys in here working now. So more things to come, but it could be sad to see this thing go, but it is for sale. So if you want a piece of GKR history, here it is.
You changed, ain't you?
Oh no, I'm wearing this the rest of the day.